Everybody's talking about this tool, do this here, just pick one thing. It doesn't matter what it is because it gets you going. I just find like business principles, lifestyle principles, just personal development stuff, that's so much more important nowadays. Instead of saying, how do I clone myself and get myself out there? You should be asking like, what do I need to build in order to get 10 leads a day?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Marketing Guides for Small Businesses podcast. I'm your host today, Ken Tucker, and today we have a very special guest, Liana Ling, and we're going to be talking about what changes when you're no longer the bottleneck, why customized automations are the future, and how to build them easily. Liana, welcome.
It's delightful to be here today.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you. So joining us is also Paul Barthel from Changescape Web and Ian Cantle from Outsourced Marketing. So what we're going to talk about really is, first of all, I want to introduce Liana to our audience. She's really a powerful hybrid, a former lawyer who's brought the analytical rigor to the digital marketing world to become the lead generation queen. So that's an awesome title. She's also the former CEO of AdSkills, which she built as an industry-leading training platform for media buyers. And most recently, and I've known of Liana for quite some time through a lot of things that you've done with Dr. Ben Atkins, for example. But you also were part of Perry Belcher's AI Bot Summit this January in Orlando. And I've been in Perry's mastermind for over 2 years now. So, welcome. We're really excited. Anything else you would like to add?
I think that was a lot.
All right. Well, we'll get started. We're basically just going to round robin the questions. And so I'll get started. I wanted to ask you about the compound effect. You mentioned that prompts don't compound, systems do. And that resonates with us a lot. But I would like for you to be able to explain that to small business owners and other marketing people who are listening to this podcast. A lot of people try to find that perfect prompt, and that's all they do. And they do it prompt by prompt by prompt. So can you kind of talk about this compound effect?
Sure. And it kind of comes from, have you heard of the book, what's it called? The Slight Edge?
No.
Heard of that? So Jeff Olson wrote that. I'm old, right? So this was probably a while ago. Google it, but really Google it for, or ask AI to show you a chart that it has. And I have, as soon as I saw that years ago when I first got this book, this is really what it's all about. So what it shows is it shows a chart of things that are easy to do, very easy and delightful to do, right? And then on the other part is also like things that are really painful to do and that we really don't like to do. And what usually happens is those are the things that we have to get done, but we don't do it because it's just painful or, it's annoying to do. But his point is that things that are easy to do or things that are easy not to do, for example, like not eating properly, et cetera, over time, you'll start to go down. Like your performance will go down, your health will go down, et cetera, but you don't notice it because you're so comfortable in all those little micro moves, just like either doing the wrong thing or just not doing something. And then the other side of the chart shows if you're doing these little micro things that it's hard at first, like maybe it's frustrating or painful or whatever, but the more you do it, you get used to it. And then it starts to compound and and then things actually start to get better. And if you look at it, maybe like 6 months from now, you'll see a big difference versus in the beginning, you may not notice any difference. And I have found like ever since I started playing with prompts and AI, and I mean, I've been working on automations for like 10 plus years, I find that they do compound. And it usually this starts with like one tiny little thing, one tiny move. And I would encourage everyone listening that I know it feels overwhelming because everybody's talking about this tool, do this here, get this GitHub of like 30,000 skills or whatever, right? Just pick one thing and don't even feel like, I used to say, oh, pick one thing that's useful for you or pick one thing that you think will, help your business get more money. I was like, just pick one thing. It doesn't matter what it is because it gets you going. So I'll just share like a really quick story of how one of my most massive automations kind of got started from this one little thing. So actually what I wanted to do was just find a way to get my Zoom recordings into the hands of my VA and also have it posted to Circle and like all these other wonderful things, right? But that was it. I just wanted something to happen based on my Zoom recording. And I was like, okay, let me just create what I thought would be a very simple automation. But I quickly found out that it was a lot harder because there just wasn't quite the right trigger that Zoom had available. And then I discovered that I think it was like the next day or something, I got an email from Zoom saying, hey, we've released an integration with Vimeo. So I just clicked on that. Now all my Zoom recordings go to Vimeo. And from there, I can actually pull information about that video and have it do many things. And I even created, at one point, I created this massive, at that time I was using make.com, and I created this like massive automation, and it actually broke the site, and I had to break it down into this like smaller ones, subflows, because I didn't know at the time, you're not supposed to put everything into one big thing. But that was probably like a whole weekend of just going through and figuring stuff out. But that, to me, that was the moment that tiny little thing that just annoyed me, right? And that just started this whole journey of just really going way deeper into AI and automation together. So that's just like, again, that's just one example of how I find it compounds.
Yeah. Interesting. I'll have to check that book out for sure. That sounds fascinating. Yeah.
I couldn't help but pull up the chart right now, and it's very cool, actually. So
it is, right? I don't know if we can share it or people can want to see it on the podcast, but it's like, it's something that I just, the thing with AI and automation is I always want to go back to first principles. And I just find like business principles, lifestyle principles, just personal development stuff, that's so much more important nowadays, because that's what you can take as your foundation. Because AI is just like, it's just a yes man. You know, it's just, I don't know if you've seen the Stanford report recently. It was like at the end of March. Have you guys seen that one? Where it was saying that AI, an actual scientific research paper was published that said that AI agrees with you about like 49% more than humans do.
Yeah.
And then the damage, right, that does to us, and we don't even realize it.
Yeah. And I even just what you were saying there, Liana, about, when you create machines or create automations, don't create massive, complex ones. I've had the same experience from the corporate world where we created the beautiful machine and then it breaks. And then you have to try to determine, troubleshoot, what do we have to fix? And when you take a more modular approach to it, it's much easier to take the wheels off the machine and put on new ones, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And then when you start to do multi-agent stuff, it also compounds because, again, you start with the one agent and then you just start to build another and another. And then before you know it, you're building like a manager, and then you have a chief of staff. And then all those agents are all learning from each other because they can now talk to each other now. And it just becomes this like big auto learning, kind of bit of experience for everybody.
Super cool. I think we're going to dig into that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Paul, you have a question?
Yeah, and I learned that a long time ago to build a lot of smaller automations. It's easier to fix a small automation than to figure out what happened in your big complex automation. I made that mistake one time.
It's a painful lesson, right? When you learn it forever.
you can go from one automation to another. It's not that hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you talk. Welcome to the podcast, by the way. And you talk about something called the butler test, and it's like the ultimate goal of automation has to pass the butler test, and knowing what the owner needs before they ask, maybe you should explain that. And then what's like the first proactive system a small business should build to see something like that?
Yeah, sure. So what I noticed when I speak with other business owners, like even business owners of pretty large companies, they still are very reactive, right? Like and so they feel like they have to be there in the front of their computer telling their AI or telling Claude Code or whatever, like what to do every step of the way. And I'm like, maybe it's because I'm lazy. I was like, why do I want that? Right? I don't want to be tethered to my computer or even my phone, right? Telling it what to do. I think it should, like, I really think that we need to think about it like a butler. And my husband actually went to school with somebody who's like a real butler. Right? And I was like, and he was telling me stuff he does. So I was like, I would love that, because what does a butler do? Like, he anticipates your needs. He manages your whole household. He manages all the people in your house and everything that you need. And he anticipates what you and your family need. And the idea is that before you even want to turn around to ask for it, what does the butler do? He's got it right there, right? Offering it to you right away. And you're like, oh, of course he knew what it was. AI should be like that. Because it can be, right? It doesn't sleep. You can set up things that just monitor things 24/7. And it's just like a mindset to ask it to create things that are anticipatory, right? That just, that are very proactive. So the first thing that I did, because I manage a lot of Facebook ads. So that's usually where it comes from, only just because that's the place I need the most help with. The first thing I did was build something that checks the pacing. So something you always want to do is know, are we underspending, overspending, on spend? Because some of these, like Google and Facebook, can just go nuts on us. So the first thing I did was I built something that just looked at the pacing at certain times of the day. And then, if it looked like it was going to be on track or off track, then it would do something. Like, it would either, whatever you wanted to do. It could tell me in Slack, it could send an email, it could have something else do something. But that was the first little thing that I had created. And it's now grown into like, I have a very simple one too, that just like takes a look at landing pages. It scrapes it, it looks at it. It's for live events. And so it also double checks to see if the date is correct on there. In fact, I just got a notification early this morning and saying, hey, the old date is still there from yesterday. It hasn't been published yet, which was kind of cool. So,
yeah. So are you saying that businesses should pick like an annoying problem that to get started with, or what?
Yeah, it can be, or it can be something you just want, like, like I have a client who just, we had to build this with a WordPress plugin years ago, but he just wants to know what the pacing is of the sales. That's it. He just wants to know, and then how it compares to other patterns, because that's an indicator to him of how the funnel is working. And that it wasn't a pain point. He was like, no, I just really want to know that. For me, I love it to give me ideas, so I also created something that looks at the sales, looks at conversion rates, like gathers all the data, and then it sends it to a brain that's sort of like a junior CMO person. And it just sends me these ideas of, hey, you know what? I think we should do this with the ad, or do this. And I personally just find it very helpful. But it whatever you want, like literally whatever you want. It's easier for people to think of stuff that annoys them, but I feel like sometimes there's a bit of do you guys feel this too? Like, some people look down on you like, oh, why are you doing that? Right? Like, why are you bothering automating that? I was like, why not? So yeah.
I love the analogy of the butler, because it makes me think like, you were saying that it's, it's watching out for opportunities to help you, like the butler who's like, sir or ma'am, here's your umbrella. And you're like, I didn't even know it was raining. So
yeah, like,
that's
imagine
awesome.
what you could do if it was measuring your conversion rates and your leads and your sales. And then, you could tell it to follow, you could have it like, hey, analyze this like you're Warren Buffett. And then you could have another one that says, analyze this like you're like whatever, your favorite business person. And you're right, like, help try and predict when it's going to rain, right? So you can put the things together. It's very exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. You, in your presentation that you had talked about tasks versus outcomes. Mm-hmm. And you noted that most people automate the wrong things. They're very task oriented rather than outcome oriented. Can you give an example of a common trap that small businesses automate that doesn't really move the needle? It's more focused on the task than the outcome.
Sure. Like, literally pick any viral video out there that says you should automate this. That's probably it. Like, one is, okay. So I see people who create things. I'm trying to think of a good one, but like, even if you pick one that, say, it automates all of your social media, right? What do? They say, hey, you install this automation or whatever skill, whatever it is you want to call it, and it's going to take, it's going to go pick viral videos, and then it's just going to recreate it, do your digital clone, put it out there, and some of these can take a while to get up and running in order to do that, but so now you're just creating more AI slop, right? Like you're just creating more stuff to put out there instead of really thinking about, well, what are you trying to do here? Okay. So first of all, like, are you trying to be famous? Totally legitimate. Fine. There's a way to do that. Do you want to get more leads? Are you trying to get more sales? Do you do high ticket sales? You're trying to pre-frame people better. Like just all those things will affect that whole beautiful, automation that you created that just completely automates every single piece of thing that you're putting out there and you're posting, 10, 20, 30 times a day. It's just, you're looking at you're asking the wrong question, right? Instead of saying, how do I clone myself and get myself out there 30, 50 times a day? You should be asking like, well, what do I need to build in order to get 10 leads a day or 20 leads a day or however many, sales, as an example. Others I've also seen too, where it's inefficient, like, and I understand like some people it's fine. Like they're like, no, I will pay the extra rates. I will pay all of that just so I don't have to touch anything and just have Perplexity or Claude do all of it. But have you seen things like where people are doing these personal assistants where you talk into it, then it's translating what you're doing, and then it has somebody else think about it, then it might have somebody else do something else. And like you've gone through all these different steps in order for it to send an email to somebody that's confirmed or something like that, right? Like it's just it's a little bit overbuilt. I found some of them too. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned AI slop, right? I think all of us in business, and especially in the marketing realm of those businesses, I think we're seeing just the explosion of content because it's getting easier and easier to build content. But it's just what you're saying. It's not necessarily strategically motivated. It's activity motivated, where they're like, well, I got to be doing this because somebody told me, or I got to be doing this because our competition is doing it. But they have no strategic framework as to why or how how it's going to move the needle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
It's actually making it harder to stand out in the marketplace because there's just so much noise now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sadly, too many small businesses and probably even larger businesses, they don't focus on outcomes. They lose sight of that. And the metrics that they look at, aren't outcome based. They're vanity based. Too oftentimes. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Or like the automations that say, hey, you could make 300 ads a day and upload them to Facebook. And I'm like, why do you want to do that?
Right.
Most people are, I don't know, just because I can. And I'm like, well, you shut it.
And now you have to manage those ads, right? And the budgets and the pace. And
and they're like, oh, I have $10 a day to spend. I'm like, no, you're not doing that.
Yeah.
Right. Now you've diluted your spend over 300 ads.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, Liana, you talk about kind of using a phased build strategy, 30, 60, 90 days, typically. For a team that has limited resources, how should they really define phase one and set that as the priority? And how does that help them build confidence and then move forward to, tackling the more complex part of the workflow?
Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of just micro moves, micro goals, micro anything. But I do think that you have to spend some time to really understand what you want. I'm still amazed at how many people I speak with that they really don't know what they want. They have very, very little clarity on what they actually want. And just from my experience, I don't know, I'd love to hear from you guys if you find this too, that the more clearer you are on the picture of what you want at the end of the day, even like what you're working towards, the better result you'll get from anything that you're building, anything that you're chatting with, AI. And people just don't stop that, because to think about that, because all the marketing out there, all the viral videos, it's all very tools focused right now, right? We've seen this happen in the big MarTech explosion before. It's, we're going through that right now, right? It's all, oh, latest tool, and the latest AI thing, and that's all anybody can think about. And then because they're always chatting with AI, it just keeps patting you on the back and telling you to keep, kind of doing that way. But you really have to step back and stop a moment and really think about, what is it that you really, really want? Be as specific as possible. I remember I was speaking with these guys who have their PhD in AI, and I was like, how do you think of all these things? Like, what do you do? And he said, just two things. They focus on looking at problems, and identifying problems, and just getting really, really, really good at that so they can get a lot of clarity. And then the second thing is they work on developing their imaginations so that they can be as creative as possible to get to the outcome that they want, or even imagining these other different types of outcomes that they want. So I know it doesn't sound sexy, but spend some time just to get a lot of clarity on what you want. And you may need to chat with your AI. That's totally fine to get more clarity, but don't do anything if you don't, I just think it's a waste of time if you don't know where you're going, where you're headed.
Yeah. I think it can be a little dangerous chatting with your AI, because it's going to recommend next steps that it thinks you should take.
Right.
And those look really good and very tempting. And before you know it, what you could have done, in that initial conversation, in maybe 15 minutes to half an hour, as you're drilling down more and more deeply into it, where you're driving it, you find that you're being led down a path that creates a lot of really cool things, but really doesn't achieve the objective that you were trying to achieve.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is why, again, you need to just be really clear with your outcome. Keep reminding it what your outcome is, what that you want, right? And just like any leader of a team, right? You have to make sure you keep everybody, on the right path. So sorry. So to go back to your original question, again, I think that's really needs to be very clear on what we want. And then I think at any team, whether you're in a big company or you're in a small company, I just say pick one thing. Pick whether it's something that annoys you or there's something you just want. And I would recommend that you use, because this is what I do. I will ask, again, because I know what I want, but I'll ask Claude or Gemini or whatever and say hey, I want to solve this, and I want to solve this using make.com or N8N or whatever tools that you have available. And if you don't know, you're I want to do this, and these are the constraints that I want on it. So I'll ask it a really good question about what I want. And nowadays, AI will build all the stuff for you. You don't have to kind of get in there always to, drag and drop and things like that. But that just gets you going, because I have found that I think more than any time that I've seen kind of just these new waves of technology coming forward, this one really is, you really do learn from practicing. The more you go into it and the more you try it and the more you overbuild, the more you fail, the faster you actually learn. So I just want to get people started with something. Even something as simple as going to lovable.dev and asking it to generate something for you. Just if a calculator or a dashboard or something, it just gets you, and then you see the possibility, and then you start to tweak it, and then you start to understand how things get better, and then you get hooked, right? Yeah. So that's what I would recommend for any team. That makes sense. Yeah. And then you can just kind of start to go, build out from there.
So you were just talking about N8N. So Zapier versus N8N, and you might have to explain a little bit what those are. I mean, to us, it's of course we know what it is. A lot of people don't. But you talk about Zapier's speed and N8N's scale. So when should a small business owner go from Zapier, which has a really user interface, to N8N, which has a lot more features, if you will?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what you want. What's your priority? So they're all good. The main ones for people listening is Zapier, make.com, and N8N. And N8N is just a little bit more technical to use. And I didn't start in it either. I started from, I remember I used Zapier when it first kind of came out. So, but Zapier tends to be the most expensive one. So I couldn't, the reason I thought I would take the pain to learn N8N at the time was, I was like, the cost savings was just too much for me to ignore. Right. So I think, yeah, like if you can set, in order to set things up quickly, Zapier is great. It's very, very easy to use. It has an AI built into it already. Just say, do this. It has I think, not a bad interface still in order to figure stuff out. And it gets you live fairly quickly. I think once you start to see that you're hitting, like you're having to upgrade constantly on your Zapier, that's when I would say start taking those high volume zaps and move them over to N8N. Just hire somebody to do it for you. That's usually the easiest way to do it, because then they can just go through all the testing and stuff for you. Or you can have like Claude, recreate it, for you, and you can kind of learn it yourself. But that's usually, to me, I'm just looking at it in terms of, cost savings, because that's really why I, kind of use it versus Zapier, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. The beauty of Zapier is that it has so many integrations, right? That's what makes it so appealing and easy to use.
Yeah. So just, and same thing with a lot of other things too. Like if you're using, I know somebody, he loves Perplexity Computer, but it's expensive, right? But he loves it, right? It's very, but I know at some point he's going to get to a point where he's like, do I really need to be paying like hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month to do this? I'm going to look at ways to make it more efficient, right? I think it's the same thing with Zapier as well. And I get it. Some companies, they have, man, I've seen some Zapier accounts. It's just, wow. It's like, it's just overwhelming amounts of stuff is in there. And I understand, like, it could be a very, very big job, especially when it's connected to everything. But, the cost savings are just so significant. I would definitely, take a look at it. Take a look at it. And like I said, the good news is that the AIs now can just create the code for you in there. Like it's really not as bad as when I remember I first learned it, because it couldn't do that at that point.
One of the things that occurs to me, Liana, is that, and I've seen this before with other things, but CEOs, presidents, the highest paid person in the business, I see it all the time. They're getting lured into using AI a lot more. And one of the observations I've made, just as a person looking at some of these people, because I get caught in it too, is that the more I think about it, the more I think they probably shouldn't even be the one doing the ideation, the testing. They should hire a junior person that is like their AI integration specialist, that all they do is they take the ideas of the team and they try to make, these beautiful machines and see what the results are.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. I'm like, why are you building landing pages? Why are you doing this?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the other things that came out was something you had coined the super keen CMO, Chief Marketing Officer. At least that's what Ken gave me. So.
Okay.
But what the description was, you envision an AI agent that detects patterns and decides what the next test is. And how would a small business owner set the guardrails on something like that? Because it almost feels like we're setting the robots loose in our kitchen and letting them go crazy, or in our business. What are the guardrails? How can they be strategic with this?
Yeah. So I have this vision of, I haven't quite achieved it yet, but I'm getting close, of creating a self-healing, not just a self-healing funnel, but like a self-healing business, right? That's constantly optimizing over and over and over again. So let's just take a look at the funnel, for example. And I do have something that runs where it's looking at everything, it's looking at the data, and then it's like, as the CMO, right? And then it also knows everything that's happened in the past. It's aware of what the date is today and sort of what are some things happening, in the world, because that impacts marketing, right? And then it can actually tell you, it can deploy tests, or it can actually ask you. And I think that the key thing here is making sure that you build in like just human checkpoints. That's all. Like, you think about it, like I tell people, think about it as if you hired somebody you don't trust, like hired somebody from your competitor who they're very smart. Like they're a nerd. They can geek out, but they have zero interpersonal skills. Okay. And you can't trust them with anything at all. Like you can't give them your bank account or whatever. Like how would you set that person up? Right. And I set that up actually on a computer here in my place here. And it's all kind of walled off. Cause I the whole time I thought is, how would I set somebody up so they can actually do stuff for my business? But, they're not going to have, I don't trust them. They're not going to have access to my bank accounts or credit cards or anything like that. And if they're going to do something, they got to ask me first. And then I'll look it over and say, yeah, okay, you can go ahead and do that. So think of it that way, right? Like, and that way you can adjust it to your comfort level. Like sometimes I don't mind if it goes ahead and it does things because I know that it's all still in draft and that I can press the, publish button, which the CEO should probably do, right? But, let it do all that other work. And that way it's like, I don't care if it makes a mistake because I know that, it's a very low impact, right? Because I can just press that button. I can decide when to press the publish button. So I would just say, think of things like that. And it can be just as simple as you having it go, okay, like, tell me your ideas, just like you would anybody else, right? Tell me your ideas. Okay. You can send it feedback or you can say, yeah, go ahead and do it. I think that's a great idea. Let's go ahead and do that. I think that to me is just a simple guardrail that pretty much works for almost anything. And I feel like it makes people a little bit more comfortable working, just setting it loose, if you want to kind of call it that.
Yeah, it reminds me of when I was in corporate marketing where we would have marketing interns come, either they're in the middle of school or they're finishing school and they're interns in the large Fortune 500 businesses, and they have lots of energy. They have lots of ideas of how to change the world, but they have no experience, right? And so, you set them loose on an idea, but their whole point of their role is to pitch the idea to somebody more experienced who can test it in the environment of real life, real business, right? So it feels the same as that, where these are the agents that we're talking about are kind of junior marketers. But we're still the ones that have to say, approve the expenditures to do that or approve,
yes.
You can go to the next task.
Yeah. But I'm so excited about building something like that. And because it's just the amount of data, that it can go through. Like just think how powerful that would be for each one of us, right? Because knowing like all the historical data and even if you can get it to get competitor data or whatever, like just all of that, looking at it, looking for patterns that we can't see because we just can't handle all of that data.
Yeah.
And I really want it to be able to be like, I'm glad you mentioned about the weather. Like I really would love it to be like a weather forecaster, for what's going to happen. Because I mean, that's all it is, right? I think it's just getting really, really good at the numbers, Yeah.
So I think you talked a little bit about one of the key roles that I think people have to embrace when they're adopting AI, and that's kind of this human in the loop or human-driven AI with the right checkpoints and the guardrails, both on the front end to guide it, but then also on the back end to assure the quality and consistency and brand voice. Mm-hmm. You've talked about content repurposing a fair bit as well, and I think this is a great use of AI. Can you give us an example of a good easy way to get started doing content repurposing? Let's just say from like a staff meeting. What could you do there, and then when you turn AI loose, how does the business help make sure that it is consistent with their voice?
Sure. Yeah, I love that question. So I would first start from something that you are already doing. So if you're already, I was helping implement a coach where he has these weekly calls. So he's already doing it, right? So we want to be able to leverage what you're already doing. Or if you have a YouTube channel and you're just already putting out YouTube videos, like just start from that one core thing. So start from something you're already doing. And like I say, it could be as simple as your coaching calls. Okay? And ask AI to build you a very simple automation that takes and I would even have somebody even just upload the transcripts. Like, don't even get too fancy with this, right? Because like just say, hey, upload, because most of our note takers and stuff already have the transcript created. So just have it put in some type of Google Drive, and that just that triggers from there. and then have it take that information and pull out the main insight, and then just create. You can have it write a Facebook post, write a LinkedIn post, write like an Instagram post, write a script for a short video, write a blog post, about it. You could, so all these things you can actually create just from that one thing. I even, for this other person, I actually created, because that's what he wanted. He's like, oh, I can actually create workshops to sell if I talked about something good. So I actually had a step where it looked through the transcript and went, did I say anything good here? Is there a workshop idea here? And I said, yes. Then it actually created the whole outline for the workshop based on the template that he liked. It created the words for the order form. It created the email sequence, and then sent a task over to his operations person to, put it all together and try and sell that. There's as many things you can kind of have from just having that one original piece of content. Now, I know it sounds complicated, but just pick one thing to do. Just be like, okay, how can I create a Facebook post from this piece of content? Or how can I create 5 different Facebook posts from this piece of content? Just pick that one thing to do, because adding all these other things is actually pretty easy once you do that. What I found in terms of keeping things to the voice, and also trying to make sure it doesn't hallucinate too much, is I'm really trying to find the context as specifically as possible. So I make sure that part of the prompt that's writing stuff, right? Like, let's just use the Facebook post, for example. It will have a section that says, use this style voice. And so in the automation, I have a place where it pulls in the style, like edgy, whatever it is that the style is. And then I'll have another one that says, and make sure like you review these foundational documents. So I also have it pull in, like, for example, one of my clients wrote a book, right? And he said, this is the book I want to pull stuff from. I'm like, great. So I have that as part of the flow. I also had AI create for me a markdown file of just like everything it knew about him and what he teaches and what we should say and what we should not say. I said, please give me just like a cheat sheet, but that's detailed enough so we'll guide it. So every single time it goes to write something, I say, like, you need to look at this and stick to this, like this stuff here, instead of going out onto the web and finding out or just going from your own memory. And that's been really, really helpful to make sure that the author's original intent comes through. Because sometimes AI just makes up stuff. Like it just pulls out certain words, and, it thinks that you're talking about something else because that's what's out there on the internet, not this person's actual thoughts. And then it also just sticks to the style, better in terms of, what we're writing there. And I found that has improved things a lot for just anything that I'm doing. And even if you're doing it in a project or, whatever you're using, they all have similar things, but they allow you to upload files, right? Upload those things, like upload the book, upload samples of the style in there. And so if you're working on it, just even in a project, just, have that context in there so that it knows what to do, right? And just keep giving it more and more examples of what you like. As well. And then that's another way to also kind of train it, just to get it going on that path. It's really easy to put something up. The hard part and the tedious part is testing, changing things, testing, changing things, testing. I mean, I had one where it was created for somebody in the UK and it kept spelling everything with American spelling. Man, that took like a week to train it out of it. But that, it's like little things like that would just, everybody else would probably just give up. But that's the tedious part, actually. That's the dark side of doing automations and using AI and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's super important too, because, to get back to the AI slop idea, a lot of people think, okay, great, I can just go type in a simple prompt, have ChatGPT write me a 750 word blog post. I put it on my website. It's not trained in their voice. It's not trained in structuring good written content for SEO purposes or for AEO purposes. Mm-hmm. And Google ignores that largely. I mean, it's just not valuable. So, yeah. But sadly, that's what I think too many people, I don't want to say a lot, but too many people take the easy way out, because let's face it, a lot of small businesses they don't understand how important marketing should be considered in terms of an investment. They see it as an expense way too many times, including their own time.
Yeah.
And so you can't cut corners and expect to get good results. You have to go through the training. And if you do that, this content repurposing idea alone is a game changer for many small businesses.
Yeah. Just do it from stuff that you create yourself. Like if
Yeah.
you're a roofer, create videos just showing, like just even teaching or showing how you do things, talking about, your clients instead of, hey, go find the most viral videos and just create something for me, right? Because then it becomes this cycle of AI slop, right?
Yeah.
Can I share with you something that's just been really game changing for me in the past 2 weeks?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's kind of, it sounds like the opposite of AI, okay? But believe it or not, I took a pen and paper.
Okay.
Shocking, right? I know, right? Right? So a friend of mine showed me this. He was like, no, get your ideas down. And I don't even have note cards. Like, this is just like scrap paper that I had around. And he's like, write down if you're doing, I did this for a whole book even, but he's like, write down the topic and just a few points that you're going to have here. And then you carry these around with you. And then I found, I use Whisperflow. Like a lot of people were recommending it to me. And I said, okay, I'm finally going to try it. So they have a 14-day trial period and they gamify it. So you have to talk into it every day, right? So I have it on my phone. And so I would just carry these with me. And whenever I had a moment, I would pick out a card with that's the topic. And then I would just get my phone, use Whisperflow, put it in. I use Evernote, but like just put it in anywhere you want. And, it's been phenomenal. And then I would take that into Claude and say, hey, like clean this up for me and everything. I found that, like the output really, really, I feel like it sounds more like me. Like this is the only time when I feel like it really has sounded so much more like me than anything else. Even when I've hired professional copywriters, to write for me. And it's just some magical thing with just the idea start on pen and then just dictating it using Whisperflow, and Whisperflow cleans it up a little bit. And I think it's helping me train also like just the AI too, to get more used to my voice. Right. But it's been amazing. Like I've written a book, I've written my newsletter, I've written all these different ideas for a blog post and just like pushing it all through. It's like really life-changing for me.
Yeah.
I love it too that you're still exercising your leadership and creative skills in the dictation or the ideation phase of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I think there must be something in the science too about, because I like to pace, right? So, or even like I have my phone, I'm outside and I'm just like talking and and you just become so, locked in on what you're doing, but you're also walking around and you're right. Like a lot more creativity comes out. It's kind of magical.
Yeah. So, you had mentioned AI slop and AI hallucinating, and some of that comes from the fact that AI doesn't remember intent the way people do. And AI is not perfect. I think.
Really?
I know. I think a lot of people think, oh, wait, it's AI. It can't make a mistake. And it makes mistakes all the time. So.
No, it's bad.
You have a high-level system called the digital integrator. And I think you kind of touched on this a little bit, but it basically tells the CEO what to get rid of. So how does a small business owner feed their personality and company branding performance into AI so its advice is actually relevant to that business?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know how many people know that there's a personalization section in most of these chat bots, right? The ChatGPT has it, Claude, and you can even see what it remembers about you and filter through that. So my first thing is it's probably already taking notes on you. Whatever you're using, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever you're using, find where it keeps all the memories. It's usually in the setting area. And I bet you'll be surprised at some of the stuff it's saved about you, which is causing it to say things that you're like, why would it do that? Like at some point, oh yeah, it said I love tacos. I know, sorry to offend, I don't want to offend anybody who loves tacos, but like we were talking about it and it got into its brain that I loved tacos and I don't eat it that often. But I was like, why is all this coming up? And I saw like it kept in there in the memory. And I'm like, okay, like I'm taking that out, right? Just as an example. So find that first. The second thing, and it goes back to when I said, hey, the first step you should do is really figure out what you want. I don't think people are spending enough time creating like a soul, basically, for their AIs. Do it however it makes you feel comfortable. Like, dictate into something to just to pour out. Like, here's basically all my insecurities. Here's my fears, but also like here's what I want to work on, and here's the type of person that I work with, like the clients I work with. Here's how I like to work. Here's my goals. Pour all of that into something, and you can ask an AI to turn it into like a soul document or a SOUL, or even just like a custom, instructions for your AI. So it has all that information, at least at the core. Okay. And another thing I do, I don't know how much it affects it, but I tell it, I said, it is your mission, no matter what, to make me successful. So you are to talk to me, even if you think I'm going to disagree, et cetera. Like I said, that is your main mission, is you have to make me successful. And I define what success is. And I have that in all of my personalized, instructions across all the chatbots. The second thing I would do is, and the Digital Integrator is actually a program that that Kevin and Nations and I created. And we kept like the way that we have it, it's basically like a custom GPT or like project or something like that, because essentially what it is we get all the answers to the questions about like what's happening with this person and their business, et cetera. And that gets stored somewhere. And then we have like a specific way of, hey, like here's how you're going to filter through everything, et cetera. And that gets stored somewhere. So the actual prompt that happens when you feed stuff in is it's pulling, okay, like I need the context of who this person is. Okay, I have to follow analyzing this data in a certain way, which is basically, cut out 90% of everything, because usually 90% of what you learn you don't need to do, right? Find the one thing you need to do, and then just, let them tell them that, but tell them that in the context of what it knows about you and your business. And that's how we kind of keep it. That's how we keep it that way. Like, I think on point. Again, you still gotta push it, right? You still have to be skeptical. It's your enemy, right? So I'll also do things where I will take the output and I'll have it run it through 1 or 2 times. And then I'll also take the output and I'll run it through another AI. Like maybe you do Claude versus Gemini versus Grok versus ChatGPT. And sometimes I'll tell it that, like I'll come back and I'll say, well, Grok thought this. And then Claude will be like, oh, well, that, and it tries to one up like Grok or something, but it's helpful just to see what the other ones think about it.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I use ChatGPT a lot, and we have clients across all kinds of different industries. And I'll be working on something for a client, putting a prompt in ChatGPT, and it'll come back with some weird stuff. And it's like, okay, I know where that came from. So you just have to get more specific with that prompt and say, okay. So like if I'm writing a prompt for, say, a voice AI, mm-hmm. and I have it give me the basic structure, and it'll start putting emojis in there. It's like, no, don't put any damn emojis in there, because it won't accept it. It'll kick it out. So
it loves emojis.
Yeah.
It's you really have to, something I don't like ChatGPT. Yeah. I still have it. I do use it quite a bit because there's so much my history in there. But you really have to tame it. Like you have to
it was just kind of one of the first ones. So it's kind of like PC versus Mac. It's like I grew up in a PC world. I made my money in IT. And so I have nothing against Macs. I know how a PC works. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a lot of it. If you know how Grok works, if you know how ChatGPT works, you're going to tend to stay there.
You're right. Yeah. You're absolutely right. I love that. PC versus Macs. That's so me too, because I'm used to PCs. I have a MacBook, but it still feels like an alien machine, when I use it.
I have a friend who got tired of ChatGPT, always saying yes, basically, but also always offering kind of a next action, because there were, it usually offers, 2 to 3 next actions, and some of them are helpful, some of them aren't, especially if what you're asking originally is actually the finished product you're after. And so they had built this elaborate prompt and trained their version of ChatGPT so that it would not always answer yes. It was being more critical because that's what they wanted from it. And if they were asking for a finished product, it would only give the finished product. So I thought that was interesting. I haven't done that, but I like some of the ideas it gives you.
Yeah.
You can tell ChatGPT to put something in a code box that'll eliminate a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. AI ad copy, AI powered ad copy. What can you tell us about that? How can you touched on it a little bit before about kind of having, using AI to emulate famous marketers to help you with stuff like that. But talk a little bit about that and how we can leverage that as businesses.
Yeah, I love it. I've been using it like since, since before it became popular. And the AI copy that I wrote, I didn't tell them at the time, but like it beat out some of the copy written by human, like super, very good copywriters out there. So I'm a big fan of it. I'll just walk you through how I would do it on ChatGPT nowadays, because I'm finding that simpler is better on Facebook right now. I test a lot on Facebook. I find that just with Facebook, you just have to test, but you have to balance it out with, as we mentioned, like your budget. Like, don't put 300 ads up because it's just not going to work well, especially if you only have $10 a day. But literally how I start every offer is, if I'm using ChatGPT, I'll just grab the landing page, the offer, and I'll say, act as, and then use your favorite marketer, like a lot of people like Alan Sultanic, Nothing Held Back group, Russell Brunson, Perry Belcher, kind of use that. Or you can say, act as the top zero, you are like you're a CMO, or you're like a marketer in the top 0.3% of marketers in the world, right? Just give it some type of role, right? And just say, write the primary text and headline for meta ads for this offer, and make sure that it is compliant with all Facebook rules. So it's going to give you something. And then I say, I said, review your work. Can you do better? I really like using that a lot. Seems to help. And then so it'll start to give me some stuff, and I'll probably run this through 2 or 3 times. And I may bring it over to Claude as well to rewrite it until it's where I want it to be. But it actually gets me pretty far, and just for that. And then I really spend a lot more time on the creative. So I'll share with you guys like a secret that's been working really well recently.
All right.
Is and look, I love videos. Video's great, but it takes so long to, make them, even when you're doing AI videos. So in the beginning, when I test stuff, I still do it in 2 ways. One, I'll have it write 20 headlines and subheadlines. And then I'll say, review your work, let's just use, Russell Brunson's name, for example. Like, would Russell give this like a 9 out of 10, or would Dean Jackson give this like a 9 out of 10? If not, keep rewriting it until like he would give it a 9 out of 10, right? So then you've got this whole list of stuff. What I do is I just use Canva, very simple, do a bulk import, just create very simple, plain background with just the headline and the subheadlines as images. That's your ad. So I usually start with that because I'm trying to figure out angles, and people just read what's in front of them, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing I'll do is, once I have an idea of the angle, I'll go back. I find ChatGPT is really good at this. It's better at this than any of the other LLMs. I'll give it the offer again. I said, here's my offer. I want you to create simple image ads for Meta that I'm trying to remember the exact words. I can give you guys the prompt to share with your audience after this, by the way, for this,
that'd be amazing,
because it's longer. But it's like, I want you to focus on what's on people's minds, right? So I call them like short on my mind type of ads, and it's a very simple cartoon. Like, it's not, and then you can actually tell it what style of cartoons, you can match it to your audience. And then I asked ChatGPT just to create the image. And for some reason, it's just really good at this, and it's these like cartoony things. You're like, why would anybody care about this? But it's working really, really well right now. I think part of it is that it looks the opposite of when you just type into Nano Banana, create an ad for this. And because I can tell if it's created like that, because now, as I see enough of them, and I just think there's a lot of that happening. And also Meta's AI creates images for you as well. And to me, they still look a little bit like the way that AI lays things out on an image. So I just think it doesn't look like AI. It just looks like a simple cartoon, and it's like in some of my campaigns, it is crushing it. And partly I think it's because it's just hitting on what people are thinking about, but they don't want to admit they're thinking it. And it's just getting really good at doing that. And and then just creating some type of very simple cartoon. And like I said, you can use different styles. Like I've tried it, for example, where I thought, I think this audience, they read like the New Yorker a lot, right? And that's a certain look, right? Or I did one for moms and I asked it which one, and it gave me a couple to try. And one was like a very retro colored actually one. And that crushed for a while as well. I was shocked because I was like, why would it, why go there? But it said, try it out. Right. Yeah. So, yeah.
Super cool.
Wow.
Yeah. Speaking of AI doing dumb stuff, that
should be a whole new podcast, by the way.
What's that?
That should be a whole new podcast for you guys.
It could be.
Speaking of AI doing dumb stuff.
I was working on some content for one of our clients, and it was about exterior painting. And it was an AI created video. And part of the video was a woman in a bikini measuring her waist. It's like, okay, what does this have to do with exterior painting? Don't quite get that.
But it caught your attention.
It's like, I don't know how this is relevant, but or where it even pulled that from.
Yeah. So the last thing I wanted to say about AI too, like in just Facebook ads is, and again, nothing against these programs that are coming up that are helping people create more imagery and creatives. I think that's all great. My beef with it is that it's going into the Facebook ads library, it's seeing what other ads are running, and it's pulling from there. And again, that's fine too, but I think we're at a point where it's just regurgitating the same thing. Like we're all going to the same competitors, the same profiles, looking at the ads that's running and just reworking that exact same ad. And then I'll just do it to the next person, the next person, the next person. So, use AI, but be a human and steer it in a different direction in the way that I did with these cartoon ones, right? Like it's just because it's not out there. Soon it may not work because everybody's going to just start regurgitating that and copying that. So you have to think of something else. But that's what a lot of these software are doing. And everybody's just using the same idea. So ads usually work when you do something that is the opposite of what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, you have to think for yourself sometimes because
really?
It's like when somebody does a study that says 10 o'clock on a Tuesday morning is the best time to send out marketing emails. So all 5 billion people start sending out their. So now you're just caught in this black hole of an inbox and people can't delete your stuff enough.
Yep.
So send it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they think you're a genius, right? You're like, who would have thought of that? Right.
Liana, you talk about, or you actually recommend doing $1 a day strategy for testing creatives. Mm-hmm. Can you kind of unpack that a little bit and talk about, why that works?
Sure. And for everybody listening, go ahead and Google Dennis Yu $1 a day. He's been teaching this for like 20 years. That's where I learned it from. He's a good friend of mine. Yeah. And I love the idea behind it. He always says that he invented it because he's cheap. He was like, what's the cheapest amount of money I can use to test something with, right? So and it makes sense. And it also helps you with your brand. So let's just say, Ken, that you wanted to also get your brand out there and you had a number of videos that you had created. What you want to do is start with Facebook. Just run some video ads or engagement ads and just set it the minimum it'll allow you to spend. Now in Canada, it's not $1. In the US, it is $1. Okay. But you pick that and you do it for each video. And so again, depending on your budget, you choose however many you want to test, 1, 2, whatever, right? And what you're looking for actually initially is a 10% engagement rate, not a 10% of people watching the video. So you just have to make sure you're actually looking at the post engagement rate because pretty much across the board, anything that has over 10% engagement rate has a pretty good chance of doing better in all other different types of campaigns. And so it's just $1 a day, the minimum. And then once you start to find, just some videos or posts that are doing well, then you can take that and do it on other platforms. right? Like imagine then maybe you have like 3 videos, like these are doing really well. So you're like, okay, go to X, run minimum per day per video on X, do it on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn's like, you have to spend like $20 a day. I can't remember, but minimum on LinkedIn, minimum on Google, like, and imagine, and then you'll notice that people will start to say like, oh, like I'm seeing you everywhere. Right. And this works really well if you're local, because what I like to do is tell people, like, I want to make you like the mayor of your town, pretty much, right? And so all you have to do is just like go to all these different platforms, use the minimum per day, and just plug in the zip code or whatever it is for the town that you're trying to blanket everything in, and just run it. And people will start to be like, hey, I know you, or whatever, and then the goodwill starts to build as well, right? Know, like, and trust, back to first principles. It starts to build, and it's pretty powerful. And then also, once you find stuff that works, especially in Facebook ads, you can take that same ad and then you can use it in one of your conversion ads. Like if you have a purchase, a lead, whatever, because that creative already engages people quite a bit. And then you can also reuse it inside of those campaigns. One note I would want to let people know, because they complain about this to me. I hear this question a lot. People are like, oh, but I can't measure this. I can't tie this to sales directly. And you need to let that go. Like, just accept you're not going to. Like, you might be able to. It's like somebody may say, oh, like I saw it, like just anecdotally. You're not. Just drop the idea that you can. And what you want to look at is your omni-channel, results. Just at the end of the day, how much money do we make? How many sales did we make? How many leads did we make? And how much did we spend? And then you can make little changes and then see if that affects kind of your total thing at the top. Because over and over again, just long term, there's so many stories from people just say, this works. But in the moment, you're going to think it's not working. and it's going to frustrate you, but it's about consistency. And like I said, I love it when it's local. A friend of mine lives in like a town of like 5,000 people, and he did this for his business. And he told me, like, he the first time he walked down the street with one of his kids going into school, like somebody said, hey, I know who you are. Like, you run this thing. And he was like, yeah, he became famous. Right. And he got I think he got like more than half the town on his newsletter list too. Like, it was crazy. Wow. Right.
Wow.
But that to me is like the power of Dollar Day. And then it does all these cool effects on like helping you with your SEO and stuff. But just Google, Dennis's stuff is for free everywhere. And he'd be the first one to say, just go Google him. And like ChatGPT knows all about him. He's legit. So it'll explain it further.
Yeah. How long would you recommend running these campaigns for?
Forever. Always. So when you're testing it out, I would run it for 7 days, maybe 14 days. And then you may just want to go the next one. So in the beginning, you're like, you're going to have a lot of duds, right? You're not going to figure out what works. And some people video work, some people images work. I know somebody else who just he just finds really interesting stories and images to share. There's no call to action. He's just trying to get engagement, right? And that works for him. I've tried that. It doesn't quite work as well for me. I found it's more like videos, but yeah, whatever works, and then just find something, just let it run. Dennis told me he has one running for like 5 or 6 years on X. It's just, he just doesn't touch it, because it's working. Somebody else told me he does it for his clients, and they take a look at stuff, and at the end of the year, and he's like, most of them are just like, don't turn it off.
Just don't touch it. I don't
know how it's working. Just don't turn it off.
Yeah. Wow. So, Ian, Paul, you guys have any last questions that you want to ask Liana quickly here?
Real quick, I do. Just messenger ads versus traditional ads. Any thoughts, recommendations?
I start with traditional ads, like traditional route. I think that should be people's bread and butter. Use Messenger as a test. On top of that, I do find that they go very hot and cold pretty quickly. I do wonder if it's just because there's less people on Messenger versus the entire ecosystem. So at some point, you just use up that audience. Messenger ads are the ones where after a while, you start to see a lot of trolls come through, and that's your sign to be stopped. You maybe take a break or create another batch of them and try it again, right? But I would definitely go traditional first as opposed to Messenger first. There's always an exception to the rule. And the exception would be if you're the type of person where you've been able to do this organically and you kill at it organically, then absolutely start with messenger ads because you're just amplifying what's working. But for most people, it's a lot harder to convert those people. And like I said, I just found that, at least just for me anyway, the ones that I've run, you get traction and then you start to get you really get a lot of like trolls and weird people,
and you don't
commenting. Yeah. So, but everything works. Everything works. Nothing doesn't work. It just depends how fast and how expensive it is. But literally everything works.
Yeah, I like what you said about the omni-channel because we talk about that all the time. And the world we live in, single channel attribution is practically impossible. I mean, you just can't do it because your customers or potential customers are everywhere. So you have to be everywhere. And to attribute this sale to this channel, you can't do it.
Yeah. So I think with that, we'll wrap up. Amazing insights, Liana. We really appreciate your time and your insights. I've known about you for quite a while, and I've always been very impressed. So I'm thrilled that you were willing to join us today. What's the best way for people to find out more about you? And do you have any offers that you want to talk about or any upcoming events that you are going to be at that you want to promote?
Yeah, sure. So you can I'm pretty much lead gen queen everywhere on social media. If you guys want to find me there, I love it when people, feel free to shout me out, tag me or whatever. I'm active. Me is usually active on those. So you can find me there. I don't know exactly what my speaking gigs are coming up, but I am actually going to be running some workshops in the Vegas area and probably in Salt Lake City, Utah as well for AI and automation. So I'm really excited about that. And another thing that I just launched is, okay, this is going to sound a bit weird that we talked all about AI and automation, but I just launched, I'm launching a printed newsletter, and it's called the Liana letter because it encompasses not just AI and automation, but also like things about business and marketing and stuff in this 120-page newsletter that I mail out every month. And it's just something I always wanted to do, and I finally launched it. And I know it sounds weird. It's very analog, but that's just something that I just launched, which I'm pretty proud of because it's just, I always wanted to do it. And so now I'm doing it. So.
Love it.
Awesome.
And getting mail is like a novelty now.
No, right? Yeah.
Because everything's
I love
online.
paper.
Yeah.
I love paper. So I'm excited to dive into that and ironically talk about AI and automation in it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to wrap this up. So, Liana, thanks so much for your time. You shared information on a lot of really important topics that I know a lot of our listeners and viewers need to be aware about. Maybe many of them have been kind of reluctant to dip their toes in. Hopefully, we've given you guys some really good strategies and ways to approach things and think about things differently than maybe the little experiments that you've tried so far. Ian, with that, I'll let you take us out.
Yeah, thank you again, Liana. This has been incredible. So much fun chatting with you today. And thank you to our viewers, our listeners. Please subscribe, smash that subscribe button. Join us next week when we're going to do a brand new topic. And thank you for just being here, and be sure to spread it with those that know you that can value this podcast as well. So until next week, folks, keep calm and mark it on.